Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tammy Ward, and I am a holistic health practitioner. I've got two of my favorite naturopathic doctors with me today, and they are holding an event in San Antonio, June 26th through the 29th, and it is a MudWise event. And it's something that is very, very interesting to me, and I know that it might be even interesting to you. And we're looking to educate you, let you know what it's about. And if you are so called to come, we would love to have you at this retreat. So Chelsea and Sandy, I'm just going to get started. Can you give us a little details on what MudWise is, what it's about, and why this is so beneficial to the human body?
Yes. Thanks, Tammy. And I'm so excited you're coming. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Collaboration is very much at the heart of everything we do. And everybody wins when we collaborate, and we think the synergy is exponential, not just like additional. It's a tremendous value to do that. So MudWise, MudWise itself is a course I created that is designed to teach how to put mud packs on the body strategically in a way that allows biofield injuries, and I'll explain that in a minute, to remediate. Okay. I have to use legal language here. I get to use legal language, but remediation. So if we have had concussions, hard hits, tattooing, piercings, childbirth, episiotomy tears, anything like that, abuse, domestic violence, or something like that, or surgeries. I mean, or broken body parts. Those can create biofield injuries. And so mud applied strategically allows the body to focus energy in a particular area and pop out and recover that biofield. The biofield is the electrical flow in and through our body. Okay. And so that can actually get injured as well. So a lot of examples would be C-section scars that wouldn't heal for 17 years, and do mud packs on their body, and suddenly it's healed. It's done. It's not having a problem anymore. Or concussions where people mud pack those concussions, and they're able to actually express emotion that's been shut down for 20 plus years. So those types of things. What happens when our meridians get kinked with these biofield injuries is we don't get enough energy flow that moves nutrients and repair and brings toxins out. So we get sluggish or inflamed in certain areas. So if you think of a kinked garden hose, you've got one side of the kinked garden hose that has hardly anything, if a trickle, if anything, and the other side has a lot of pressure. And so if we open that up, which is what mud packing does, it allows all the energy to flow properly through that space. Did I explain that well enough?
You did.
Okay.
Now I'm even more excited because, I don't know if you guys know, but when I was age 16, I had the stomach stapling surgery. So I'm cut from below my sternum all the way to my belly button, and then I had one C-section, and then, a natural birth. And then I've also got a pin in my foot. So I'm thinking, these are all areas that probably I need mud packing. So I think all of us as humans probably have had some sort of injury that could benefit from this. And what a beautiful modality to be able to do that. And you're using God's created earth, dirt.
Yeah.
So, and that to me, I was talking with a friend, it was 2 days ago about this. And she goes, I've heard of mud, ancient mud, and people even eating the mud. Have you heard that?
I fed mud to one of the horses I mud packed. He loved it. It was snacks. So this mud is nutritive. It's not, in fact, the more nutritive mud that you can use, the better the remediation. So I use really fancy mud that we get from Premier Research Labs in Austin. Texas.
Yeah,
So
I saw
use their
that in
mud.
your page because I was kind of doing a little digging, trying to get more of an understanding. And I thought, well, interesting. There is a company that probably produces this,
Mhm.
so it's a known modality, but I've never heard of it. So
They're the
until
ones that actually train me. They're the ones that train me. But MudWise is my experience expanded based from what they trained me. And there's stuff they don't know at this point. Like this is a thing I'm doing and have explored a lot. And I've worked with not only just physically complex people, but emotionally complex people, spiritually complex people, that have dealt with strongholds over particular areas of their body. And MudWise MudWise as a whole is designed to meet the need, body, soul, and spirit, if necessary. So what I was trained in is just the physical, energy, energy part, but not the soul or the spirit. And those all can be addressed within MudWise as a whole. MudWise 2.0 is our expanding curriculum that we're developing, and it will be MudWise, the original MudWise, but expanded, and then MudWise on the Move. MudWise on the Move is something I developed that works with quantum entanglement. And so we remote test and can find all the things. And honestly, this modality came out of a need of testing extremely complex people. So I work with survivors of satanic ritual abuse, mind control, and dissociative identity disorder, lots of persons in one person's body. And what I've discovered is each of them have a different biofield and they have different injuries, and it becomes very complex with that community. And it doesn't need to be that much harder. If let's say they have 100 different altars on the inside, and they all have different biofield injuries, MudWise on the Move is a way of shortcutting and meeting the needs of many of their biofield injuries in one mud pack. So it's a more efficient way of handling it than treating each person in personality on the inside who have different biofields. Do all the mud then. It saves them thousands of mud packs, maybe more.
So this brings a question that's just popping into my brain: is what is it? What is the experience like when you're working with someone like that with multiple complex issues? Do you actually apply med in just one area or several areas? And how long does the process take? And
it's the
what
same.
kind of
It's the same. It's the same as testing somebody that's got one person.
Okay.
So it really is the same, but there might be some other complications. For example, with me, I've had 5 C-sections, an open appendectomy, and it dehisced. So I have that midline scar that's been cut 7 times. Okay. When I put mud on it, I got dizzy the first time and had to take it off and rest. Like that was a huge, whoa, this mud is doing stuff. I mean, you wouldn't think mud on your body is going to make you dizzy, but that is something they warned us about. And then I experienced it. But like that area of my body has complex emotions that go with it. So think of the complex people, but that there's actually joy with that scar because I was able to give birth to 5 children that I may have had trouble delivering naturally. And then the disappointment was a big one because I had my appendix had ruptured, but also like praise because my appendix ruptured and did not go. I didn't go. It was ruptured for a week, and my belly fat caught it and didn't let it seep into my bloodstream and get me sicker. So like, there's also like that gratitude that I didn't die from this appendix rupturing. So like, there's a lot of complex emotions, and we can use flower essences with mud to actually address right there on the area the emotional need and the physical need. And boy, I remember one of my students came from a far distance. She was battered from domestic violence. Here's my husband. domestic violence, and head to toe had biofield injuries. We did one on her head, then we did another and added Bach flowers. I forget which one, I think walnut, but we added Bach flowers into her mud and it cleared every biofield injury, every single one. Her body's like, that's what I needed. I needed to be heard and I needed a little mud. And it just released everything. And her countenance went from stern to the like this joyful floof. She said she felt floofy and she looked like she had stars coming out of her eyes. I mean, it was just a huge shift in person and energy just from that.
You know, this reminds me of when I worked with kids with when when he was born, it was a very traumatic birth, and we went to chiropractic after that. And seeing these kids that have been either damaged by, the something, or, maybe they, were a birth trauma themselves and very damaged. But after getting a chiropractic, when you talked about the eyes, I would literally see these kids on the table and it was just like this blank stare. And then the moment they would get chiropractic and that innate energy being aligned, you just see the eyes open up, the lights turn on, and you're like, this is a totally different child. So I can only imagine what this would do for people that have been imprisoned, so to speak, by their own injuries, to have that released. And then, whoa, all this light comes on. I just can't imagine it. This is incredible.
That reminds me of, we've got a lot of stories over the years of, retreats, and because that's the great thing about being together with a group, because sometimes people like, there'll be releases and things happen that like you didn't anticipate, like nobody could have planned, because that's what came up and that's what needed to be released. And so one of our favorite ones to share is actually that first one. We had a class out in Dallas and at Chelsea's office. And we were in a group as a large group. I don't know how many people it was, maybe 15 or so. But we were had started the mud packing, I think, or doing the downloads. And we all started going, what does that smell? It smells like electrical, like electrical fire, like something was burning. And so we were kind of sniffing around and looking, because you know how lots of things plugged in around. But eventually we noticed one of the ladies at a table kind of in front of me was crying. And so we went over there to check on her and found out that she had been a flight attendant many, many years before. And on one of the flights, there was a fire on the plane and they thought it was going down. And so there was all this smoke inhalation and fear, as you can imagine, associated with that. So literally her lungs were releasing. You could actually smell the smoke and the fear that was being released from that. And that was one of the most like palpable, like we could literally smell it, which sounds wild, but it was a room full of people that experienced that. So just imagine, like, she'd been carrying that for years and years and years, and there's no telling how that had been affecting her over that amount of time. So, and then we've had other people that, like practitioners, who like all of a sudden it was just like, wow, I like the sensitivity, if you work in this field, your sensitivity to energy is an important part. And so we've had people that just like felt the sensitivity in their hands just magnify. And then there's all kinds of others that are from injuries. But I guess I want to say it's not only in injuries. There's a lot of things that we cannot even realize, because this was a very amazing practitioner, in her own right. But there was obviously some things that were blocking. And so she was able to increase her sensitivity to energy. And, it was a game changer for her.
Wow. I can't even fathom the different facets that you guys can really hone in on with this modality, because you said earlier, spiritual, physical, emotionally, mentally, all of that's a game changer. And when you encompass all of it instead of just one thing, because as we know, even with the AO scanner, when we when we stack the different things, we can help ourselves so much better, and benefit so much from that. I just can't even imagine what this is going to be like.
Well, and one of the things that I love to share about MudWise is that we can find the invisible injuries. Okay. And a lot of them are unknown until we explore. So all of my mud packing passion came from, I took the class and I had, had results in the class, but at the time, my oldest daughter had at that time trichotillomania from a bruiseless concussion. Like, we didn't even know it was a concussion, but it was absolutely correlated to watermelon hitting her temple. They did like a Gallagher thing. I don't know, some of your people may not know who Gallagher was, but this comedian that likes to smash big watermelons. Well, they dropped a big watermelon from a high place and it hit her in the temple, and it altered her so much. She was fierce and angry, and fire tears were coming out of her eyes, big ones, just the whole day. The nurse, who's a friend of mine at this camp, she was like, Chelsea, it was unreal how my daughter was behaving, which is not her character. Okay. And at one point it was time to go to bed and she was so mad. And I was like, you just have to go to bed. That was all I knew to do at the time. The next morning, she had pulled out every brow hair and lash, everyone, and continued for a year. So there's no bruise where the watermelon hit, never showed any sign of injury. But when I learned the class, the best advice I ever got was do this on Monday. Literally start putting it to practice right away. So I did. And I took her to my office. We had spa day. It was girly girl time. And she may actually be there. I'm not sure, but we're still figuring out if we can get her in. And she typically is our chef for the events. So if you come, you can meet her and see her beautiful brows and lashes. But I mud packed her. We went home. Okay. We didn't talk about it. I didn't mention trichotillomania with her, not at all. And I'm not saying mud cures trichotillomania. I need y'all to hear that. Mud remedied a biofield injury where she no longer felt the need to pull. And I'll explain this with the next statement, or just a second. But 3 months later, she was at my dad's house. We were at a party, and he said, Mariah, when did you stop pulling your brows and lashes? And she's like, oh, she didn't know she had stopped. The need went away. So a few months later, I accidentally gave myself a concussion. I pulled the van door on my temple with my glasses on, and it just kind of was like real uncomfortable. And I felt my head shift. I felt like there was a wedge. I don't know how to explain this, but like a triangle wedge. So I knew what to do. And I went to my office, mud packed myself. And my kids all noticed how slow I was. They noticed Mom's altered from something. I was calm inside. I felt like Cecil the turtle is kind of how I explain it. I was happy, but I knew something was off. So I mud packed, and about 5 minutes in, it got warm for me. Not everybody feels this, but I got real warm. And then I could feel air move past the temple again. And I didn't realize it felt crushed. That's how I felt. And then it popped out and relieved. And then I understood why she stopped pulling her brows and lashes.
So this just comes to me while you were saying that. We know as healers and practitioners that we have this energetic field around us. That's our biofield. Mm-hmm. So this is what you're explaining, that we get, maybe someone slaps up against the head or something. That could be an injury to us. And especially, I think of that, and that's humiliating to have someone smack you up against the head. So you might have a humiliation part of that emotion. It could be, our anger. It could be, why did they do that? And then you start discounting yourself. So I could see all of the emotions surrounding just someone just flippantly knocking you in the head, just, even if they're being sarcastic or something. Right. That is, is that a possibility that could, as subtle as those little injuries could be?
The body keeps the score. The body
That's true.
keeps the score. So if we don't minister to,
Yeah.
again, Tammy,
Words are power. I tell, my family and friends all the time, words are power. Be careful what you say. And I even struggle with that sometimes too. But yeah, that just, oh man, I'm just like mind blown.
Yeah. It's like it is like a synergy of so many different things. Because you might set out to be like, well, I really want to work on this. Well, you may not realize that something else is what's causing this, but the body knows, and so that's what's so beautiful about this, that it's gentle, and we are working with what God gave us, to work with. And but the other thing that we're super excited about is ways that we can use AO scan, ways that we can use thermography, ways that we can use these other complementary things to synergize everything. So once a person learns this, they'll be able to help other people,
Right.
in their circle. So, and again, I can't emphasize enough that, like, we have lots of students who've gone through our online course, and we think the online course is amazing. And we're very grateful to have that, out there that we run periodically. But there's really nothing like being in person, and sharing that space together. It's just a whole nother level. You're sharing meals, and as things come up, you're able to talk about it. And of course, we're able to bring years of experience of doing this, and that perspective on things. And it's, we're super excited about this one, because of all those reasons. We're able to explore other ways. It's wonderful on its own, but now we have other complementary, healing modalities that we can bring in. So it's going to be amazing.
This is just something that popped up too, is when you're doing the AO scan, do you all happen to maybe run the chakras and the meridians prior to the MudWise, or is that even something you do?
why not?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, this will be a first for bringing in AO scan into MudWise. However, we've been talking about it, and we've been using it in that way also. And so there's so many aspects of AO scan that can be incorporated, including the AO tune. I could just getting our DNA to tighten back up would be huge. So there's so much in the AO scan that can go with MudWise. It's amazing. And I mean, not just one thing, but even an assessment tool that can be built into your scanner.
Yeah. I'm excited too, just to kind of come and observe, and then also be able to take maybe some thermal images of the people that are willing prior to. And then Chelsea and I have talked that, maybe take one right after, but then also take some images, maybe 30 minutes or even an hour after, or even maybe at the end of the day, take some additional photos and see if there's any type of change that we can. I mean, as somebody, I don't read the thermal images, but I'm trying to teach myself by getting as much education as I can. But it would be interesting to be able to look at those photos or those images and see if there was any type of change, even if it's small. We know that that's typically a big change, even if it's a small change.
Yeah.
So
it's a snowball effect. Get a little room here, and then a little room gets added. At the one that Sandy mentioned, that was at my office a while back, with the woman with the electrical smoke coming out of her lungs, there was also an iridologist in our group. And we were wondering if we'd see a shift in the eyes, and we did not. So that was a fair experiment. But it takes a while for the eyes to change, but we were willing to try that even back then, and we learned that it wouldn't show up right away. I don't know. We haven't followed through and found out if it shifted later, but there's a lot of possible causes at that point. But thermography might be really neat to see a relief in inflammation.
Yeah.
Or even those that are super cold areas, that they get more flow.
Yeah. even as an iridologist, I could, even take a before picture of their eyes and then let's see you in 6 months, because it usually takes 3 to 6 months to see that shift in the eyes, but you can see it most definitely. I've seen so many eyes that it's just like, and then 6 months later, it's like, holy cow, what did you do?
Mhm.
Because the body responds so quickly, but it does take a little bit of time for the eyes to show that shift. But
but if we have that data that says, okay, this was on my liver meridian,
right.
and then the liver area in the eye clears up in about 6 months, I would say that's a pretty good, I would feel far more confident in considering those results, with the iridology. So
Yeah, most definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. Any tools like that, I think this is going to be like exploratory and I love that. I know there's a lot of practitioners like me too. Like, I love to be a part of, like, oh, wow, we found that out. We weren't anticipating that, and think about some of the greatest discoveries of all time have been that kind of thing. You're just trying different things and, seeing what works. And so we're excited to bring in, some wonderful people who are willing to come in and just collaborate with us while they're also, learning this amazing modality. But the potential is huge. And even if it may not show up in the eyes for a while, or even something didn't show up on thermography, we know people, they feel a shift, like what Chelsea described or other people have described. I mean, a lot of times people will see and feel a shift right then.
Yeah.
So we just don't know.
I want to add something, because this came to me too. I had a client yesterday with thermography, and I won't mention her name, but anyway, she had a soft tissue sarcoma on her, I think it's her right leg, that she got from a work injury. But this work injury, it just really brings us home about Chelsea and what she said about these injuries. Okay. This woman was a UPS driver, and every time she would go to get on her truck or to get her dolly, she would hit that right shin on that step over and over and over and over. Well, then some years later, I mean, she drove UPS for 20 plus years. Okay. And just listening to her story makes this just kind of hit home for me, because I was like, man, that repeated injury over and over. And then they had, they couldn't tell her why she had soft tissue sarcoma happening, but she got it twice. The first time she actually went through radiation, the second time she did not. And then her poor leg, you ought to just see her poor leg. It was like, man, they've just butchered that leg. But they could never tell her why she had that, and they didn't even connect that, but she did. She knew that was probably the cause, because she continued to hit that leg, but there was no way for her to prevent from doing it. It was just, the logistics of everything, how it was all set up. But that is fascinating, because if that truly is, if we continue to do something over and over, and then we end up with a very severe situation later on, or, a health condition because of this, just makes total sense to me why you would want to do MudWise periodically, because there may be something unseen that you're missing, that you might be going to a chiropractor for, or you might be getting acupuncture for, or maybe you're getting a massage, or, you're having Reiki done, or you're having emotion code done, any of these modalities, but you may be missing it by not doing the application of MudWise, or the mud packing. So this is incredible, you guys. I cannot wait. So let's cover where the venue is at. We already mentioned it was June 26th through the 29th. Where is it being held?
Okay, I'll pick up on there. We have a lot of retreats out near Nashville, because we have a beautiful horse farm out there. We like to do retreats. But we wanted to do one closer to Chelsea this time, and out that way. And so we ended up deciding on Texas. And we just felt like when we started talking about, and we do the same too, we just like we're just open for direction, like where does this, where does it need to be? And I love the flow, Holy Spirit just kind of directs us and the things just kind of start working together. And so San Antonio was the place. And so this is our first time to do a retreat out that way. And we are going to be minutes from the Riverwalk. And it's a beautiful, I don't know, Chelsea, if you have, if the location, if you have any pictures we can bring up. If not, we can always post it. But
I didn't.
but it is a beautiful, oh my goodness, it's like a Spanish villa style home. It's a huge home. It's got lots of beautiful outdoor space. I mean, it is gorgeous. And it's just minutes from the Riverwalk. So a huge kitchen, and I mean, it's gorgeous. And so we're super excited about this location, to be there for the first time. And like I said, retreats have kind of been a thing I've done for many, many years. And I love just the whole community aspect of healing. So a beautiful space is a part of it. It's like you could do something like this in a hotel conference room. It would absolutely not be the same.
Right.
There's just something about, like I said, coming together and sharing meals and staying up and talking, and like we don't cut off. Like we'll be on the trail of something and talking about something, and sometimes it'll go into the evening, and we just kind of hang with it until we're too exhausted. That's kind of how these retreats go. So anyway, yeah, the San Antonio is where it's going to be, in this beautiful Spanish villa style home. And for this one, we are moving a little bit different. We're coming in on a Wednesday afternoon. So we'll share a meal together Wednesday evening and do all of our, introductory fellowship, getting to know everyone, and some of the general basic things that first evening. And then we're going to have Thursday and Friday for like all day to just dive in with everything. And we do plan, I think Thursday evening is when we're planning to do dinner at the Riverwalk. So that's one evening we've set aside for that. But the other thing that's really unique about this retreat is everything is really included. In the past, people would have to order their own mud and bring it with them, to the event. But this time we're bringing all the mud, and we're bringing all the supplies. And so other than that one meal out on the Riverwalk, everything is pretty much provided in this retreat. So you get there, you don't really have to think about anything other than just, the wonderful time of healing and fellowship.
And we like to focus on nourishing foods. So
yeah,
it's not going to be a Stouffer's lasagna. It'll be good food.
Yeah. That's part of the healing.
That's part of the healing space. So
we'll definitely have the links on how any of our audience can come. There is space for more. So Chelsea, I was asking Chelsea how many more that they had space for, and I'll just let her explain how many more that they've got space for. And again, I'll put the links of the cost and where to send your funds to for Chelsea and Sandy to do this retreat. But Chelsea, how many more can you guys take on?
We can take a max of 6 women.
Okay.
So we tend to, there will be a time and a space for men to be involved. However, we typically have women because of very personal injuries that sometimes need to be discussed, and they need a safe place to talk about them. So when we map the body, some of them look like crime scenes, and they really are, with the way it looks on the paper. So we just try to hold that space for some protection over that type of thing. So we're asking that women enroll, and that if men are interested, we might do something for men or a co-ed, but this one is not co-ed.
Sounds perfect. Y'all ought to think about doing a marriage MudWise retreat.
I know.
It would probably be a good one.
Would be a really good one.
But I know you'll learn, and if Scott needs this, you will. And I know you'll learn, and if Scott needs this, you will do it. So, also, I want to bring out the point that we mud pack animals as well, not in a class, but you can learn how to mud pack. So I've mud packed a couple of horses, and one of them had a really big shift. His name was LJ. So for your animal lovers in your community, Tammy, LJ was forced into a fence post at 3 days old, where he was still kind of soft. The bones were soft, and it left a big dent in his right between his eyes. And so I got to the opportunity to mud pack him. He's the one that ate the mud. But there is an internal mud pack, and so it made sense since he was so interested in it. I just gave him the mud instead of the little capsules. But there's I mud packed him. We were done. I went home. 4 months later, we were back at the horse farm for another retreat, and it had come up more than half and softened. The edges weren't hard. There's still a slight hint, but these are 25, 30-year-old bone dent. It was really committed by that point, right? And it released it, and it relieved that. So, and the owner agrees. Her name's Carol, and she agrees that what I'm seeing is what she's seeing, and that's her horse. So that was a big thing. The bones move.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It is. It's amazing. You know, the potential, and I know we know this, you know, with AO scan and other things, but like the potential for healing is so amazing. And like, we just never underestimate the things that can happen. I mean, you just have to be open to say something I didn't even anticipate, you know,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful.
I can so see it. I see how this can help so many people. We have so many beautiful modalities, we really do, but this is pretty cool. This is going to be great.
I once had a lady take a class. It was the same class, Sandy, the same one. That class was kind of like God was giving me huge downloads. She took the class. Her son had a significant concussion. He fell really far and hit his head right on it. And so she was taking the class for that, but she never got around to mud packing him. She didn't do this on Monday. And I actually got to meet him at a different time, but I didn't know I didn't realize, I didn't connect the dots, but I just kind of was around him and could feel this spout of like hot energy just pouring out of his head. And I was like, what happened right here? She said, that's where the concussion was. And I had to go back and remember, I didn't remember that was the kid or the concussion. I didn't remember any of that. So she had to kind of catch me up. I can feel his body losing massive amounts of energy because that hadn't been remediated. So this little kid is going to be, you know, if he doesn't get that mud packing, super depleted of energetic resources, and he's always going to have to be accommodating for it. So the point here I want to make is head injuries are significant to the whole body, and it requires that we supplement in excess just to stay afloat. And so mud packing can help reduce the dependency on supplementation in the long run. So just think about all the money somebody might have been spending just to try to stay afloat. Turns out they've had a big head injury or even a minor one that had a significant impact, and how much they would save in the next year or two just by reducing their supplements. So
yeah, win-win.
And just
definitely
some prayers.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then there's another one that Chelsea shares about a fertility issue that she had a really great success with a couple who'd not been able to have a child. And I think it was just one mud packing session, wasn't it?
One. I spent the day with her and did because I traveled. I actually had a day rate and I traveled to her and mud packed her all day. And a few weeks later, they're pregnant. Now they have 2 kids. Like it was a midline injury right here on the governing vessel. So like this meridian from the upper lip all the way around, but it impacted her fertility and able to hold on to a pregnancy.
Yeah.
That's just incredible. I mean, you just got to walk away knowing that what a privilege to be, and I always say this, hands and feet of our grand creator, and a tool, and especially if you're wanting to be that, and I know for myself, I'm just always happy to serve in any capacity that I can, because it just brings me joy,
Yeah,
but also brings those other people, what they need in their lives. And what a beautiful way to be that, the hands and the feet of our creator, and be able to help out. So
absolutely. Yeah,
I,
it's such a reciprocal blessing.
yeah, yeah. It's incredible. I just can't wait. I cannot wait to come see you guys, be a part of this. As soon as you posted about it, I was just like, I am so interested in that. That just for some reason, I'm just so honed in and interested in learning about it. But then I thought, oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to do it. But I'm just so glad that things are working out where I can come, I can learn, and I want to be able to spread it to as many people as I can. So thank you both for doing
Well,
this, sharing your heart, sharing your passion, your love, and the extension of our Father too, because there's so much of this that's needed. We there's so many people that need help. So
true. And we're so thrilled that we are literally elated that you're coming and bringing all the joy and and all your gifts and your beautiful energy. And so we love that synergy so much. And so we are so excited that you're coming, and we know that this is going to be a really special time. So we would love if there's any of your audience, people who watch this who would love to join us. Yeah, jump in as soon as possible, because we are in planning mode now.
okay. Well, I'll get it sent abroad and sent out, and I'll put it in my group too. So I have a feeling, there always seems to be those last minute people too, which I hope that doesn't happen for you guys. But if it does, maybe you'll end up with way more. They will have them on the floor and in the basement and outside in tents. Who knows?
Oh, it's gonna be good. It's always the people that need to be there are always the people. Whether it's a big group or a smaller group or whatever it turns out, it's always the people that need to be there that will be there. And it's beautiful.
I have a mentor that she would do retreats and classes, and she'd actually went to another state to do a retreat, and only one person showed up. And she went ahead and did everything that she had planned to do. And do you know that one person ended up being a part of their family from here on out? And then, of course, she ended up passing a couple of years, I think it's now. But because of that one person has now been an instrument in helping this particular person, my mentor, have this incredible retreat and piece of property in Georgia, where she is now teaching more and more people, just because that one person. So you never know who's going to be at your retreats, what they need, and how they may be an instrument in even spreading what you are offering to our beautiful humanity. So never discount who's there.
That's absolutely right. I absolutely believe that. And I've had retreats before that were smaller than what I was anticipating. I had one recently like that, but it was absolutely what it needed to be. There were some people there that needed a small group where things could be a lot more intimate, to feel like they could open up and share. And so that special group, that's like they needed that to be small for that purpose. And you could just see the way God just worked through that whole thing in such a major way. So we have learned to trust that it'll be the people that need to be there, and it'll be beautiful.
That's awesome. I can't wait. All right. Well, okay. I guess we'll end it there. And again, I'll put the links of how you guys can come to this event if it so calls you to be there. And there'll be some pictures and things of the actual event where it's going to be at. So thank you again, Chelsea and Sandy. You both are dear, dear people to me in my eyes. And I just think you have so much to share with the world. And I can't wait to help be an implementator for that as well. So
yes, thank you, Tammy. We love you.
We love you too. All right. So let me I guess you'll stop the recording.